Next item is new business. It's just a report on the Rogers contract, isn't it, Dave?
Well, the position's much the same. He's wavering, but he's still talking about the other firm, Trunk Haulage, which has a depot in Leeds.
We did, as I recall, have an approach from a small man in Leeds. What was his name? He ran 6 lorries, wanted to sell out.
Yes, well, perhaps we could keep that warm. But I've pointed out to Rogers that with regular collections, a local depot is hardly necessary. I've promised him that any emergency collections will receive priority, and I hope he'll accept that.
Fine, and I agree that if we're talking about depots, Leeds may not be top priority.
Is that all, Dave?
For the moment, yes. I think I may have to go and see him again before we get a decision.
Right, let's move on.
Half a minute. Arising from this...
Arising from what?
I've been giving this whole question of depots considerable thought, and there's no doubt in my mind that we should be treating it with far more urgency. Now, the only question is, where should we start? Which ought to be number one? Now, like it or not, we're members of the European community, and continental traffic must boom, and we should be fighting harder for our share, which means we ought to be considering the case for a depot in one of the Channel ports, probably Dover.
I'm going to cut you off there, Brian. I agree with you that Dover's important, but you're getting right away from the item under discussion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I must dispute that ruling. It seems to me to arise directly from new business. It has to be serviced as well as obtained.
I agree. I think we should talk about Dover.
We've got a heavy agenda to get through without trying to deal with an additional matter like that.
Surely we can spare a few minutes. Or if you like, I'll suggest we convene another meeting.
Oh, all right, but try and keep it short.
Now, we already have a handful of roll-on, roll-off contracts.
Which are easily serviced from London.
Dave, that isn't always so. Now, I've been looking into this, and some of those contracts involve an awful lot of empty mileage and time lost in detours.
Besides which, what about return traffic? With a base in Dover, we could service the south and the southeast without hauling the loads back to London first.
Precisely, and with the eventual motorway pattern, the same might even apply to the west and part of the Midlands.
Brian, you're talking as if we had all the money in the world at our disposal. Let me repeat, we haven't. We're still backed by Jill's guarantee.
Well, that's no reason to stop looking ahead.
You're talking about buying land, building
maybe we could
depots?
share facilities already established in Dover.
This is a board meeting.
I'm merely suggesting that I look into it and see what the possibilities are, that's all.
Brian, you're the finance director on this board. Now, don't you think you're exceeding your brief a little?
Mr. Chairman, the bigger this company becomes, the less it will be possible to manage it by knowing what it's like to drive a lorry.
I can't see...
My figures give me as much insight into the needs and trends of this firm as anybody else on this board, no matter what his experience.
I wasn't suggesting that Brian shouldn't investigate Dover, and that would do no harm so long as we weren't committed.
Well, of course
Any commitment would be for the board, not me.
I move that Brian should go to Dover, see what the situation is, and make a recommendation.
I don't think we need a formal motion. We're all agreed, aren't we?
Right. Let's move on, for goodness sake.
I've been dying to come and see you and hear all about Hamburg. What was it like?
Fine. They made a great fuss of us all, but it was very tiring. I was glad to get back home again.
Do they still have that place on the Reeperbahn with women wrestling in mud and telephones on all the tables so that you can ring up anyone you happen to fancy?
Well, there was one very much like it. We were taken there by the German PRO. He was called Wolfgang Schmidt. You will find it very interesting, he said. He did, I promise.
Was it?
Well, we didn't stay very long. The phone never stopped ringing.
I hope you didn't tell David.
Of course I did. He just laughed.
Perhaps he doesn't mind you being out on the town.
Well, I wasn't exactly out on the town. I was with 5 other people.
Safety in numbers. No thanks. Would he have minded if you'd gone to dinner with Wolfgang Schmidt?
I don't know, but I didn't.
From which I assume he asked you.
A couple of times, yes.
There can't have been any harm in it. You should have gone.
Hello, darling.
Hello, darling.
Hello, David.
Oh. Hello, Julie.
Julie rang and
Jill asked me over. I wanted to get up to date. I owe your husband a meal. Did he tell you?
Yes.
Well, I must take you to lunch one day and arrange it so that you can come too.
Thank you.
You were here last. Do come in. So you're Johnny. I've been so looking forward to meeting you. But dinner won't be long. Do sit down.
Thank you.
Johnny, what will you have to drink?
Nothing, thanks.
He doesn't drink.
Oh, well, Barbara?
I won't have anything just at the moment, thank you.
I'm so glad to see you again, Barbara.
It was very kind of you to invite us, thank you.
Nonsense. As soon as I heard you were married, I wanted to meet... Oh, that's Dresden, Johnny.
It's great.
Yes. Yes, I quite like it. I've had it a long time.
Johnny, sit down.
Oh, sorry.
He's always wandering around looking at things.
Don't complain, that's how I found you.
He even does it at home.
I believe you've got a flat nearby.
Yes, over the shop.
That's only temporary. Boutique, not shop. It's much too small, the flat, like 2 adjoining cupboards.
Oh, it's all right.
Later on, you see, we'll put a manager in. He can have the flat, and then we'll find somewhere decent. Knightsbridge, Kensington, somewhere like that.
I think Edward told me it was a men's boutique.
That's right. We opened last week. We've got some great gear. Edward should come and have a look.
Yes, well, I'll mention it to him.
The only trouble so far is a shortage of customers.
No, we're doing all right. Perhaps we'll need to do a bit more advertising, that's all.
Oh, I believe Hammond Transport are thinking of employing an advertising agency.
Which one? I'll talk to them.
Oh, they're too big, Johnny. Well, they won't want to know about you.
They will very soon, my darling. Don't you worry. Have you got a pen?
Whose idea was it, trying to find a depot in Dover?
Oh, mine, I suppose. Jenny supported me, but David was a bit difficult about it.
Why? I thought he was the get-up-and-go-whiz kid of the company.
Oh, he seems to be haunted by the fact that we're still using Jill's money to guarantee some of our loans.
What about Edward?
He's started by trying to rule me out of order. Come to think of it, I can't imagine how I managed to get it through at all.
Darling, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. How long will you be away?
Oh, a couple of nights, I suppose.
Will you take the car?
No, I want to do some work in the train.
Right, well, I'll drive you to the station.
You don't have to do that. I'll take a taxi.
I'd like to. Don't do much to help you after all.
Now, Anne, when Dad left me a quarter of the business in his will, you wanted me to sell my shares.
That's true. But you were working for a large firm of accountants, and I thought you had a better future there. But you insisted on staying in the business. You fought me, darling, and I respect that. I like people who make decisions and stick to them.
No? Well, you didn't make this respect very apparent at the time.
Well, those sort of things come later on. And anyway, things are different now. Since we've been back together again, you've talked to me about the business. You've told me things. You never did that before.
Well, I was under the impression that you found it a decidedly dull subject.
Well, perhaps I did, but people change. And anyway, at that time, there was nothing in it for you except a salary which you could have commanded elsewhere. But now, you're expanding. You're thinking of going into Europe. You're even talking about turning yourselves into a public company one day.
These are long-term plans, Anne, that's all.
I think you've got more ability and more authority than you ever dreamed of. Won't so very long before Hammond Transport becomes a really big business. And when that day comes, I want you to take your rightful place. The position you deserve. Now, is that so very difficult to understand?
No, I suppose not.
All this just to explain why I want to drive you to the station.
So you're helping in the shop, Barbara. Oh, I'm sorry. Boutique. Help yourself to sugar.
She's our greatest asset. The fellas come in to chat her up.
That's just about all they do.
One of them spent a fortune. The one that you sold that suede outfit to.
Gave it to him, more like. Well, Johnny accepted a cheque without a banker's card or anything.
He was straight. You can always tell.
You hope.
Anyway, what sort of a life is it if you go around being suspicious all the time? I mean, in the end, you've got to trust people.
Yes, although sometimes that trust may prove to be misplaced. I say that because... well, never mind.
Johnny knows, Mrs. Hammond. I told him. I didn't want any secrets.
No? Well, in that case, perhaps I can say that because Barbara is my husband's daughter, I feel very close to her, Johnny. Responsible in a way. I don't know whether you'll understand that.
People are people, Mrs. Hammond. They don't choose their parents. All right, if I go and top up this coffee pot?
Yes, the kitchen's through there, to the left.
Mrs. Hammond, perhaps I should have said this before. You were very kind to me when I found out, when we both found out who my father was. I appreciate it.
I haven't been kind, Barbara. I'm genuinely fond of you.
I also know how you feel about my mother. But she is my mother. And she brought me up on her own. I didn't even know who my father was till I was 17.
I know.
Well, that's all, really. I love her. And I can't be disloyal to her.
No one expects you to
Well,
be.
it sometimes feels like that.
Barbara, I can't expect you to understand
I
how...
do, Mrs. Hammond. I think you keep it alive in your mind. I do like you. But she's my mother. And if I feel I'm being asked to choose...
I've never intended that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying all the wrong things.
No. I'm glad you spoke out. I can't be friends with your mother, Barbara. You must understand that.
I know.
But if I want to be close to you, I must at least accept her. Yes, you're quite right.
I found some apples, Mrs. Hammond. I hope you don't mind.
No, of course not, Johnny. You're very welcome. You can have whatever you want.
Was Frank there?
Yes, he'd come over to see the show. He's never used me before, but suddenly he's keen. Only trouble is, it's in Liverpool.
She's off again.
Yes, it's all go.
Oh, good Lord, I didn't know it was that late. I was only dropping in for half an hour. Oh, can I phone for a taxi?
Oh, haven't you got your car?
No, somebody dropped me off. Oh, perhaps you could run me home. Would you mind?
No, of course not.
Then I can give him that hat of yours.
What hat?
That one I borrowed for the session.
Oh, God, that was ages ago. I'd forgotten all about it.
Well, I hadn't. You shall have it back. Come on, then. It's lovely to see you, Jill.
Nice to see you.
I shan't be long.
I'll go to bed. I'm exhausted.
Am I allowed to give him a drink while I find it?
Oh, well, he doesn't need my permission.
Help yourself.
I don't think I will, thanks.
Well, pour one for me. It's no use. You'll have to get it down for me. It's in a box on top of the cupboard.
All right. Where?
Oh, let me have a drink and a cigarette first. Thank you. Well, sit down, David. Do you like my skirt?
I've never seen you wear anything but trousers before. Have you finished at the depot? Have you got all the material you need?
Nick wants to go back for some reason. I don't know why.
I thought he was supposed to be the agency art director.
He is.
Well, that's not the art director's job, surely, working on a potential client.
Nick wants to take on some account work as well. I think he sees himself as a top executive. Oh, but don't worry. Tony Bromley's always in the background. You'll get a good job. Are you going to take them on?
We can't afford it.
I think they'd say you can't afford not to.
Yes, I've heard that line. The money's simply not available, not for a while.
The amount of activity going on, the number of men you employ, you can't be that hard up.
Well, you'd be surprised how much we owe one way and another.
So everyone's wasting their time, except me. I get my fee anyway. I'm a freelance. And it's been nice to see you again.
Julie, I'm married now.
That's the non-revelation of the year.
You know what I mean.
I'm going to give you a drink. It might make you a little more lucid. Don't you want to see me?
It's not that.
Well, then let me try. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Translate, please.
The more things change, the more they remain the same.
Very good, David. Cheers.
Oh, hello, I thought you were going to bed.
I felt like some more coffee. Do you want some?
No, thanks. Here's your hat. Where shall I put it?
Oh, anywhere.
Sorry, I was so long. Julie found it on top of a cupboard.
I didn't really want it back anyway.
Oh. Well, it's there.
David?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd like a car for myself.
You can't drive.
I had lessons once, I just didn't take my test. I'd very soon get my license.
We've got my car.
We are not always together. Well, if I had my own car, I could drive myself to work, take my own friends home, all sorts of things.
Well, perhaps later on.
I think it should be a new one, don't you? I saw one the other day I'd quite like. I think it was about £1,500.
You get a good second-hand one for half that price.
I expect I could, but I'd rather not, thank you.
Well, we can't afford £1,500. Not at the moment, not for a second car.
David, I'm sorry I even have to ask you. Normally I wouldn't, as you know, but I don't have the free use of my own money for the time being. I don't expect you to give it to me. I'll pay you back.
Should have known you couldn't resist using that one day.
That's a horrible thing to say.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll try and put it another way. Money's not important. You said that once, not me. But just the same, we're in your debt, and no one knows it better than me.
David, please, don't look at me like that.
You have every right to anything you want in the way of money, and it's up to me to find it.
David, forget the car. Damn the car. I'm sorry I even mentioned it.
I'll go to the bank first thing in the morning.
No, look, please. I don't know how all this started, but let's stop now, please.
This is when you realize how being married is different. We can't go to our own places to cool off. There's nowhere to go. If anyone leaves, they leave.
David, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'm in a mood. I'm overtired, I suppose. Let's get some sleep. It'll all look better in the morning.
You go. I shan't be long. Go on.
What's that?
The dead man.
The what?
An anti-jackknifing device.
How many gears has she got?
5 forward, 1 reverse.
Johnny always wants to know about everything. I hope you don't mind.
No, of course not.
Very nice of you to show him round.
No, it's no trouble at all.
I didn't know you ran a fleet of vans as well.
Yes, we use them for local distribution.
Well, look, I get some stuff coming in from Italy. Sometimes the docks, sometimes London Airport. I might as well use you as anyone else.
Johnny, they're probably all on contract work.
Well, you've got to look ahead, darling. Once we get a chain of boutiques going, our transport contract will be worth a bomb. How about it?
And then he had the brass nerve to suggest that we submit an estimate.
Well, I don't suppose he quite understands how we operate.
And that's not all. Then he said, would I introduce him to our advertising agency? Now, where did he get that from?
Not me.
I said we hadn't got one, that we were just considering it. Jenny, do me a favour, will you? Have a quiet word with Barbara and get her to straighten that boy out.
I know he seems naive to you, Edward, but at least he's full of enthusiasm and ideas.
He's full of hot air, it seems to me.
That's not fair. He's young, he'll learn. He'll find out it isn't as easy as he thinks it is, yes. But the basic idea isn't so stupid by a long way.
Well, having a good idea and bringing it off are two different things. I don't know how you put up with him.
When Barbara told me she was married to a man I'd never even seen, I had nightmares at night worrying about what sort of man he might be. But Johnny's kind, he's generous, he's good-hearted, and he wants to get on in life. And he's doing something about it. Compared with what I was afraid of, well...
No, he's likeable enough, I know.
But what?
Well, he's a dreamer, Jenny, not a doer.
Didn't you ever dream at his age?
Yes, I suppose so.
Give him a chance, Edward.
Oh, all right. But steer him away from this van nonsense. He can fetch the stuff himself. He's got a big enough car.
Hello? Oh, hello, Edward.
I've got someone here who wants to talk to you. Nicholas Fox. Hang on.
Hello? How's Brian?
He's in Dover.
Yes, I know. I wondered if you'd heard from him. Ah. Well, anyway, that's why I phoned. You remember I was asking for Brian's comments on... Yeah? Yes. Well, I left a file with him. It contains some notes and sketches, which I need. Is it still there, do you know? Yes, yes, I'll hold on. Sorry.
It's quite...
Hello? Is it a fat one labelled Hammond Transport? Yes. Where are you? At the depot? Well, supposing I come and bring it to you there?
No, no, I don't want to put you out like that. Hmm? Well, I'm with Edward at the moment, but when we've finished, I'll come over and collect it. No, it's no trouble at all. It's my fault, anyway. Later on. All right. Bye.
I think it's only fair to warn you that we're not of one mind about this advertising business.
Where do you stand?
Nowhere. I'm sitting.
On the fence?
You're not selling soap flakes or dealing with impulse buying when it comes to road transport. It's a world of cutthroat competition, and getting new business means dealing with tough men who want their money's worth.
Other road haulage firms advertise extensively.
Perhaps they're big enough to stand it.
Perhaps they're big enough because of it, too. But that is by the way. We won't try and persuade you. We'll show you, which is what you want. No, I'm just the front man. I'm backed up by a very skillful team who know exactly what they're doing.
I wouldn't like to waste your time, that's all.
We had a meeting about your company the other day, and the general feeling was that if we could sell ourselves to you, it would be relatively easy selling you to your customers. Well, I better go and pick up that file.
When are you going to put your estimate in, or whatever it is?
At the moment, we're waiting to hear from our associates on the continent.
Well, what the devil has it got to do with them?
Brian gave me the benefit of some of your thinking about going into Europe, obtaining return loads, and so on. We may be able to offer some suggestions. Well, goodbye. See you again soon, I expect.
Hello.
Hello, come in. I hope this is it.
Ah, yes. May I?
Do.
Yes, fine. I'm sorry to impose. Hope you weren't in the middle of anything.
No, not at all. I do have some shopping to do now.
My car's outside. Shall I drive you?
Oh, it's just the local shops. It's not worth driving. Otherwise, I'd take my own car. I'll walk. Thank you.
I could carry your shopping bag.
I'm sure you're very busy.
Yes, I am.
Oh, well, in that case.
But I didn't take any lunch. I'm entitled to an hour off.
Yes, all right, Brian. Yes. Well, what train will you be catching? I see. Well, that's fine. Fine. Goodbye. He'll be back just before lunch tomorrow.
Has he had any luck?
I don't know. He seemed very cagey about it for some reason.
You bought half the shop.
Giving a dinner party tomorrow night. Did you carry girls' books when you were at school?
Only the outstandingly pretty ones.
No one ever carried my books.
Boys must have been uniformly backward.
As a child, I was rather plain.
All I can say is that time has compensated. Or overcompensated, rather. What did you want to do in life when you were a rather plain child?
Well, different times I wanted to become a nurse, a vet, well, an archaeologist.
What happened?
I got married and had children. Well, thank you very much.
I'll bring it in. The file's still indoors, anyway.
Fine.
Anywhere special?
Oh, just put it in the kitchen. I'll see to it all later. Brian seems to have read all this. He's made some notes.
May I see?
Well, I suppose so. He's made cross-references to the file anyway.
It's very useful.
Are you cultivating Brian?
In what way?
He seems to be very much on your side.
That's not surprising.
Why?
Brian has more foresight than the others. Oh, perhaps that's tactless.
It is rather.
Forget I mentioned the others. Let me just say that Brian understands that the semantic undertones in the words advertising campaign are only too accurate. It's a battle with a clearly defined objective.
A battle which can be lost.
Without careful planning and without the right firepower, yes.
Which your agency provides.
Which we suggest is provided.
Brian likes you.
I like Brian. But if you think I'm using him...
I do rather.
He's using me, too.
How?
May I sit down?
Sorry. Please do.
Brian can see a very different future for Hammond Transport. Public company, many times the size, operating all over Europe. Now, we've talked a lot.
So I gather.
Now, one thing he'll need is a good advertising agency. The rest of the board don't quite see it yet. Brian needs a case that they can't turn down. He wants to make sure that's what we put up.
And that's how he's using you.
Yes.
I'm very pleased to hear it. I suppose I ought to offer to make you some tea.
Well, after all that exercise, it would be very welcome.
Although you do have all that urgent work to do.
I shall work on it. Tonight.
Lemon or milk and sugar?
Lemon, please.
Of course, you can have a drink, you know, if you prefer it.
No, thanks. You can give me that tomorrow.
Brian's back. Tomorrow.
I know. He's invited Tony Bromley and myself to dinner. Your dinner party.
I thought it was just Tony Bromley.
No, it's me too, I'm afraid. Do we have to go out shopping again?
No. But don't be surprised if you get a very small portion.
I'll eat at lunchtime and just enjoy the company in the evening.
Just here will do.
Wouldn't tomorrow do?
Ted, this is urgent.
You can't expect a special meeting to be called at a minute's notice.
Doesn't have to be a formal meeting, just a get-together would do.
We can't do it now anyway. Jenny's seeing a couple of reps.
Was everybody lunching in today?
I don't know.
Well, could they? That's not too much to ask, is it, to talk over lunch? Everybody was very helpful. I think we'd be welcome. One place sounded good.
Well?
Well, it was too far outside town. Bad road approaches.
Ah.
One site was excellent.
Built from scratch.
Well, I told them we'd have to forget about that for the time being, but it's worth bearing in mind long term, though. It was a light industrial area being developed over the next 10 years.
Might be interesting.
I don't think we ought to delay too long. After all, if we're going to do it, we don't want to be left behind.
Otherwise, mostly a lot of red herrings. Either the places were no good at all or in dead ends.
You sound as though you covered the area like a hound dog.
Yes.
I think it's been very useful, Brian, even if you didn't find anything.
Oh, I didn't quite say that.
But you said all the rest were red herrings.
Except one.
What's all that?
All the relevant information. The dimensions of the building at the top. Sorry about this typing, but I was up at 6 o'clock this morning tapping away at the hotel machine. I found it through a local estate agent. He thought it was too late, but it isn't. It's a warehousing firm, very reputable, but for internal reasons they want to let off one warehouse.
It has a 7-year lease.
Yes, and it's just what we want. The right size building, petrol pumps on the site, plenty of parking space, no planning difficulties.
You're sure of that?
I've checked. We could more or less move in straight away and make any necessary modifications later.
It's got an escalating rental.
Yes, but not exorbitantly so. Well, they have to reckon on inflation, Ted. I think we can live with that rental.
Yes, I suppose so.
It's the price of the lease that bothers me.
I don't know. It looks reasonable enough.
Yes, I think it's well worth considering.
We have to make a decision more or less at once.
So why the rush?
Well, they were negotiating with another firm, discount stores. Those are the agreed terms, but if we make an improved offer, it's ours.
What sort of improved offer?
An additional £10,000 for the lease.
10,000.
Well, that's not per annum. The rental remains the same. It's just the purchase of the lease.
An additional 10,000 on top of this. Oh, we can't. We haven't got it.
We shouldn't write it off just like that. Not for premises as good as these.
How do we know what the premises are like? Can we rely on Brian to know if the buildings are suitable or not?
Now, come on, Dave. Brian knows what we need.
No, fair enough. I suggest that we all go to Dover tomorrow to confirm my judgment. If I'm wrong, you can tell me so, and if not, we can sign and make the initial payment.
I'm in favour of that. I think Brian ought to be congratulated.
Yes, it sounds as though it ought to be looked into at once. Shall we travel down, say, about 10?
How do you intend to make the initial payment?
Well, I'll make the arrangements this afternoon.
Pay with what?
Dave, things are much easier now.
I don't know why I have to keep on saying this. We are operating under loans and overdrafts all over the place. Those are debts.
Working arrangements.
Debts. Partly secured by Jill's guarantee to the tune of approaching £100,000, so we're in her debt as well.
No, she made a guarantee, not a loan.
Morally, a debt. Until it's paid back, or the guarantee released, if you want to be technical about it, we're not entitled to buy leases or employ advertising agencies or indulge in any of the fancy schemes that have started floating around this place.
Dave, in principle, I would agree with what you said.
Right. Subject's closed.
No, it isn't. This is a special case.
Why? Because the depot at Dover is your baby?
No.
This isn't a personal matter.
Because it's a golden opportunity.
To spend money we haven't got.
We can find it.
At Jill's expense?
Not at her expense. We'd be acquiring an asset.
While Jill's money remains tied up.
She made no time limit, as I recall.
It was implicit.
Well, would she mind?
That's got nothing to do with it.
Well, can we talk to her? Explain to her?
It has nothing to do with...
I would have thought it had a great deal to do with Jill.
Don't put words in my mouth. It's got nothing to do with talks and explanations. What do you want, another personal favour?
If you want to put it that way, for the good of this firm, yes!
There's no point in making this a shouting match.
I didn't want to use Jill's money in the first place. All right, so it was necessary to save this company from collapse, but strictly as a short-term measure.
We're only talking in terms of months, perhaps weeks.
But it's grown into a damn great albatross round our necks, and until we're rid of that, we're not free to do anything.
You mean it's grown into an albatross round your neck, don't you? And you're not free.
If we're getting personal, you seem very keen to use Jill's money to finance your pet schemes.
My pet schemes, as you call them, have one object, and that is the growth and well-being of this company.
Stop it, both of you. This is ridiculous.
Will be no Dover depot on these terms, so forget it.
That's not for you to say.
Oh, yes, it is, Brian.
All right, let's take a vote. Let's see what the majority feels.
Now, don't try that one, Brian. Jill can withdraw her guarantee any time I advise it, and then where would you be?
Ted, this Dover place is right for the company. I know it in my bones. I don't know what's wrong with Dave. He's cutting off his nose to spite his face.
We've got to have David's agreement, Brian.
What? He's one director among four. He has no power of veto.
Yes, I know, but he has a moral right in this case.
And you'd be prepared to endorse that by voting on his side?
I'd rather not be put in that position.
But you can, and would?
Yes, as chairman, I would if I think it's right.
For the first time, Ted, I wonder whether you ought to be chairman.
What's happening, Jenny?
I don't know.
I should have done something. I don't know what. But it was up to me not to let it get out of control. And I did nothing.
Dave! Hang on, I've been looking for you. Dave, wait!
Yes, we've had a report from Brian Hammond. Yes, we could be very interested, but we need some time to consider it. Yes? Hold on.
It's all right, I've cooled down a little. I'm sorry.
Yes? Yes. As soon as that? Well, we'll be in touch. Right, thanks. Well, I tried to play for some time, but they want a quick decision.
Because I've been trying to get hold of David, see if we couldn't talk about it more rationally this time, but he's gone.
Where?
Oh, his secretary doesn't know, but she assumes he's gone home.
When was this?
A couple of minutes ago. Well, we'll wait half an hour and I'll ring him at home.
He might not want to talk to you.
Yes, all right. I'll apologize to him if I must, but we've got to settle this somehow. I don't want to lose that depot.
Something we can match up to one of your endless still lifes.
Thank you. Compliments always welcome.
The name doesn't help. Hammond Transport. Only it had a touch of glamour to it, like, oh, Hammond Transcontinental or something.
Well, that would make them sound like an ancient American railroad.
Why don't you try being constructive?
That's not my job. Nor yours. Adrian's the king of the sparkling phrase. Talk to Adrian.
I have. But as a copywriter, Adrian is not a self-starter. Oh, he may sparkle about cornflakes and deodorants, but when it comes to road transport, he said, "It doesn't excite me, darling."
Nor me. Nick, why are you taking so much trouble with these people? They're just an ordinary medium-sized company, and nobody loves lorries anyway. You can't win.
Oh, I don't know. I might.
Yes? What's the prize?
I've got a feeling about them. They just might take off. Well, at least they care about what they're doing, even if it is carried out in an atmosphere of what is politely known as creative tension.
Well, I can't see you making a name for yourself as an account executive on Hammond Transport. Anyway, why bother? Why not stick to being art director, for which I'm sure you're grossly overpaid? What do you want? Power as well?
It's like Everest. It's there,
Oh, the experience kick.
if you like.
Don't bother, it's not worth it. Go back to turning out those bogus paintings you used to foist on a gullible public.
I love you, too.
I know, that's why we have such a lousy working relationship.
I suppose we're too much alike.
Please, most insults I can laugh off. But really, you're one of those people who just sail through life, totally immune, totally unmoved.
Whereas you care.
Sometimes I do care, yes. Deep down, I'm very deep.
I'd better go.
Yes, we're not really getting anywhere, are we?
I'm due at the weekly conference anyway. But in future, let's stick to the job in hand, shall we?
Can't you take women who don't adore you on sight?
Julie, whatever you want that you haven't got, or for whatever reason you're unhappy, don't stick pins in me. It bores me.
Oh, get out! Nick? Truce?
Truce.
Okay.
Hello? Oh, hello, Bran. David? No, he's not here.
Well, as soon as he gets in, would you ask him to phone Edward at the office?
Well, I'm leaving for Liverpool shortly after 7. I wouldn't normally expect him home before then.
Well, he's left the office already. He shouldn't be long. Yeah, it's very urgent. Thanks very much. She's going to make sure that he phones.
Hello.
You see a refugee. Can you offer political asylum?
Of course. No questions asked in this asylum.
Driving round trying to think of somewhere to hide out. Then I thought I'd see if you were at home.
Who's after you?
My brothers, I suspect. There's been a difference of opinion. The easiest way to solve it is if I disappear.
But they could find you at home.
Exactly. They may even be lying in wait for me. You won't have to put up with me for long. Jill's leaving for Liverpool at 7. Once it's dark, I'll sneak home and ignore the phone and the doorbell.
Fine. Or I could give you dinner tonight, if you like, instead of that lunch.
Darling, where have you been? They'll be here any minute. And why didn't you tell me that you'd invited Nicholas Fox as well as Tony Bromley? Now there's only just enough to go
Don't fuss,
round.
please. I'm not in the mood. I've been trying all afternoon to track down David.
What on earth are you talking about?
I found a place in Dover. Perfect. Just what we wanted. David's trying to kill it.
Why?
Oh, I don't know. Jill's money again. He's been quite irrational about it. Let them in, will you?
Tony Bromley sent his apologies and be along without 20 minutes.
Jill, you're still there. Oh, is David back yet? Well, where the devil is he? Yes, all right. Look, before you go, would you leave a message for him? Would you ask him to ring me or Edward or somebody? It doesn't matter how late it is. Thanks. And good luck in Liverpool.
Bye. Hello? Oh, hello? Why? What's happened?
I'm terribly sorry. I'm a bit disorganized just at the moment.
That's quite all right.
I've had a very wearing day. I really must have a shower. Will you excuse me?
Yes, of course.
Anne will keep you company. I shan't be long.
What would you like?
What have you got?
Most things. Take your choice.
Dry sherry, please.
Please,
Just to make sure
make sure of what?
that you felt the same. Thank you.
So it's not about the depot in Dover.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's about Jill's money.
Yes.
You think she bought you?
Oh, no, she didn't. Not really. It was a very generous thing for her to do.
Just the same, you feel as though she bought you.
I shouldn't be telling you all this.
We're old friends.
I suppose if you'd known, you would have predicted it.
Of course, with unerring accuracy.
I wonder.
Oh, never challenge me, David. I can't resist it. All right. I'll tell you what you're feeling now. You feel under an obligation to Jill. You feel bound to her.
Oh, I want to be, mind you.
But of your own free will, which implies choice. And just now, there is no choice. Your freedom has vanished. You can't do or feel what you want because you're in her debt. How's that?
Pretty good. I suppose I behaved like an idiot today.
From the business point of view, I'd say you were wrong.
I know. But I'm not a commercial automaton. I'm a person.
Well, personally speaking, I think you should release Jill's money as soon as possible. Then you'll be free to see what you really feel about everything.
I should be going.
Well, do if you want, but there's no one waiting for you after all.
Jill. I thought you were in Liverpool.
It was cancelled
When?
at the last moment. David, it's 3:30 in the morning. Where have you been?